talking about how this isn't a big deal. It's only 75,000 people infected. It's only 2,000 people dead. Come on, Jim. What does it matter? Let me ask you something. If the Chinese government is reporting that there are only 300 or 400 cases each day now, with the magic communist math that they're using, why are they now building 10 more hospitals with 30,000 bed capacity? If you know that you're only getting 300 to 400 new cases, and you're saying that recoveries are starting to shoot up out of cases that already exist, why would you need an additional 30,000 beds? It doesn't seem to make sense, does it? That's on top of the already 3 emergency hospitals and the 8 to 10 converted auditoriums and stadiums that they've been using as makeshift hospitals. But now you need an extra 30,000 beds? For who exactly? Nobody's sick in China anymore. I've been watching the numbers as they come out. You're building 30,000 beds for 300 people? I don't know. It doesn't check out on my math, but I guess I'm not smart enough to figure it out. Maybe chat can help me out. Anybody want to crunch those fucking numbers for me? Maybe run them through? I'm having a little difficulty figuring this out. Why would you need 30,000 beds for such a small amount of people? Why? You know what else I really like too is the little windy.com maps, the SO2 sulfur maps or whatever, where people are saying, well, this is clearly evidence of bodies being burned. And then mainstream media is like, no, it's not. That's coal plants. And then the next day you get a CNBC article and others saying that coal consumption and coal generation is down 50% across the board. And then 2 days later after that, you get that there is some EPA reading saying that the pollution in China has been cut by 25%. And yet you still got that giant fucking heat mark right in the middle. All the SO2. Oh, and then they order 40 mobile incinerators. I guess you're going to need a lot of those mobile incinerators when you open up the thousands upon thousands of apartment buildings that you've welded shut as you left people to die. We've already seen multiple stories of children dying, not from the disease itself, but from parents that had to go out because of policies enacted by the Chinese Communist government to go get their groceries or to be put into coof camps for quarantine. And what ends up happening to him? The kid starves to death. The kid falls out a fucking window. The kid gets hurt. The kid dies. There are numerous videos of people doing some pretty fucked up shit out there. One video of a lady stabbing a little girl to get her hand sanitizer. It seems like they're a bit unnerved right now in China. Telling everybody everything's going okay. Releasing statements like if a previous numbers that were reported, they'll be held accountable. We saw that happen with the 2 prisons where, what was it, 300 to 400 prisoners ended up getting sick and fucking with China's numbers. And so what happens? The guy reports it, and then the guy just disappears. Oh, they like making people disappear. In Hubei and the Hong Kong and Macau districts, they have new provincial leadership directly under our boy Winnie the Pooh calling the shots. So I'm sure that's going to work out fucking wonderfully for the people in those regions. You're not going to get real numbers from China, but you're going to start to see what this disease may behave like now that it's not contained behind an iron curtain. Now that you can see it finally kind of out in the open in countries that are going to be more open about what's going on, even if that openness is partially because they're handicapped. So where do we begin? Well, let's start with Iran because I think Iran's the quicker one. Iran just one day decides to tell everybody, and I fucking love this, and I'm not making it up. You can go look at the timeline in regards to what Iran does. Iran comes out and says, hey, we have 2 coronavirus patients. Just 2. And then 4 to 5 hours later, oh, they're both dead now. Our 2 patients are both, they're dead. We don't know, whoopsie, we don't know what happened, but they're dead. And then the very next day, it looks like we've got more deaths and 17 more cases. And then what do they tell people? It's not just in Qom or whatever the name of the city is. It's in Tehran. It's in all the other cities. They actually said, we're pretty sure it's in every city, but we can't be fucked to deal with it right now because we have elections coming up. So let's let all our koofers get in line with all the uninfected people and just goof all over them. So more than likely, because they're already showing deaths and because you can look at how this plays out in every country it's been in, Iran's probably got a fuck ton of people that are sick, and now they've all lined up to vote. Brilliant! That can't turn out badly for anyone. Then you've got Japan with the fucking death boat anchored offshore. It has to deal with all these fucking sick people. Every time they send a goddamn quarantine officer in, somebody comes out sick. Surgeons in operating theaters are getting sick. People driving taxis are getting sick. When this hits big metropolitan urban areas, it does gangbusters, just like it did on that fucking ship. The closer in proximity, the more people are going to get affected. So Japan, its numbers are starting to slowly grow. We'll see where it goes, but I think the real money right now is in South Korea. It started off with, I'd say, 20 or 30 cases, and then in a day it gained 100 cases, and then 140 cases. It's just shooting up to the moon. Non-stop fucking ride to the stars. But there might be a reason. And I think you're all going to really enjoy this as we talk about the church and the super spreader. In fact, even before we get into Korea, I'd like to touch on that. I want to see if people in chat have recognized this play itself out. I've seen it about 3 times now. News will come out about how this disease behaves or actions that are being taken to prevent it. And everybody will say that's fictitious. It's not happening. It's not true. And then 3 or 4 days later, mainstream media comes out and says, oh, actually, it's totally true. Good example, incubation period. And this is one you can actually use America as an example for. One of the more recently diagnosed cases in California. A lady comes back from China on February 2nd, is federally mandated to do a self-quarantine at their home for 14 days. On the 16th, oh, we're done. Quarantine's over. Looks like everything's great. And then what happens? 3 days after the quarantine ends, 3 days after that, they test positive for fucking coronavirus. And this has happened multiple times. This 5-day to 14-day bullshit that people have been feeding everybody, you might want to wake the fuck up to the fact that that's not going to save anybody. This fucking thing incubates up to 24 days. And some people are saying even longer than that. There are more stories coming out about how it's 30 days or 31 days. What do you think is going to happen? Right now in California, there are 6,700 people self-quarantined in home isolation. They're going to be given the thumbs up by those doctors who are going to say, you're good to go. And they're going to be out in the streets of San Francisco and Los Angeles and San Diego. And then, 3 days later, 7 days later, 10 days later, they start getting a coof. But they're going to think, I'm fine. I don't have the coronavirus. Can't affect me. I got out of quarantine. I've been given the all clear. It's going to be a fucking hot zone in that state, especially when it hits the homeless population. It is going to tear through that fucking state. Every place that's implemented this retarded 14-day fucking quarantine rule has been bit in the ass by it. The Japanese have been bit in the ass by it. Cambodia just got bit in the ass by it. America looks like it's going to get bit in the ass by it. China for sure is going to get bit in the ass by it. That's why they keep extending their quarantine. That's why it went from 2 weeks to 4 weeks to 5 weeks. Because they don't know what the fuck to do. And that's just with incubation. Then what were the other things? Remember, for the longest time, mainstream media and people were saying, there's no such thing as asymptomatic carriers that can spread this. We don't have any typhoid Marys. That's impossible. Turns out it's totally true. Turns out that they've actually found out that actually is a thing. That there's no such thing as reinfection. You can't get this twice in a row. Turns out, yeah, you can. Well, if you get the reinfection, you're not going to get sicker. Turns out, yeah, you are. Every time one of these pieces of information comes out, these assholes deny it, They delay the information by 3 or 4 days, and then the mainstream media pulls its head out of its fucking ass and tells people, yeah, guess what? You're going to get fucked. You've got a disease that mimics the flu and the cold, that has an incubation period of 24 or potentially more days, that if it doesn't drown you in your own lungs with acute respiratory distress syndrome, it will reinfect you and give you a fucking heart attack. And if by chance you survive that, it's going to affect your testicles so you never have children. But don't worry, it's not a biological weapon. It's a totally naturally occurring fucking horror story from the depths of hell that just decided to poof itself into existence. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Don't listen to Senator Cotton when he tells you it's a bioweapon. Don't listen to Marco Rubio or whoever the fuck it was today that was saying that China's full of shit. Don't listen to these Chinese scientists or different academics from around the world that are saying, hey, there's some fucked up shit about this thing. It makes me wonder if maybe it was man-made. Forget about the fact that there's the multiple institutions all centered around that wet market. I think the funniest fucking article I've read, I swear to God, I can't remember if it was who it was. Some news agency wanted to be just, bright and early with their bullshit. So they come out to the public and they make a little 10-minute video talking about the facts. Let's dispel the myths about coronavirus. And they said, what about bat soup? And the lady that answers it says, that's not true. It's a wet market. They got it at the wet market. And then they cut. But nobody asked the bitch, what is a wet market exactly? What do they sell at wet markets? Oh, animals. What do they do with those animals? Oh, they eat them. This isn't a fucking adoption center. It's not the fucking Humane Society. People aren't going to wet markets to adopt anteaters and bats. They're getting them for fucking ingredients. It's ludicrous. The amount of people that are trying to play the game where, oh, well, we don't know what's going on. We don't think that's true. And then 4 days later, well, it's true. We're sorry. That is going on. You've got the World Health Organization constantly running damage control for China, sucking its dick like it's a fucking hobby, like it's the tastiest treat on earth. The ice cream man just came down singing a fucking song, jingle in that tune, as Andros, or whatever the fuck his name is, runs out there and get a mouthful of that shit. I mean, why do I have to listen to dueling health agencies fight over basic shit? It's pretty apparent who dropped the ball. They effectively told everybody it was a nothing burger themselves in the beginning. Repeatedly told them that. Don't worry about it, not a big deal, just China. Just China affected, not a risk to the rest of the world. And then what happens? They change it and say, okay, it is a risk to the rest of the world, but China's glorious and beautiful. And Winnie the Pooh's penis pleases me greatly. So let's all applaud China for their transparency. What transparency? Who? The transparency to black bag journalists and put them in fucking coof camps? You remember the doctor that tried to blow the whistle and warn the world about this shit? Oh yeah, they basically arrested him. How about all those citizen journalists that showed people what's going on in Wuhan? Oh, they've disappeared and nobody's heard from them. What about the doctor that wrote an op-ed saying that Winnie the Pooh is a fucking retard and that this isn't being handled properly? Oh, he doesn't exist anymore. With Tiananmen Square, the guy that stood in front of those tanks, they were asked later on, hey, whatever happened to that guy? And you know what their answer was? Oh, we think he's alive. They never gave a name. They never said if he was alive. We think he's alive. That's the answer you're going to get when it comes to Chen and Fang and all these other people. All these people that have been black bagged. We think maybe. We think this might happen. We don't know. A lot of ifs and coulds in there. That's the transparency that WHO loves. Trusting numbers and definitions that change by the day. Testing methodologies that change by the day. China knew how bad this was, and they withheld that information, and now we're all going to suffer for it to some degree, whether that's economically or our actual physical health, because they wanted to play this face-saving bullshit game. I'm sorry, I don't know how you're going to walk away from this not looking like complete incompetent idiots, because that's what you are, China. You're fucking morons. Either somebody ate a bat and cursed the world, or you released a bioweapon through sheer incompetence. But there's no way you're going to look good at the end of that story. Now, I know I've gone on a bit of a tangent from my original point, but I just wanted to see if you made that observation. If you've seen what I've seen when it comes to the media and these different health organizations, at first denying and then admitting, and then here comes the press to back them up. All the shit that you're reading and seeing is coming to pass. They're behind everybody else by about a fucking week. Three days to a week. So that brings us back to South Korea. Cases are starting to grow, and we've got a lot of them coming from a church. But I'd like to stress the point that of the 134 cases or 143 cases that there were today, 90 of them came from a hospital. Not from the church, from a hospital. If you remember the Lancet article and other studies that had come out said that this thing spreads like wildfire in a hospital setting. Again, totally not a bioweapon, right? Let's not make something where when you go for treatment you get sick because of the proximity. But a lot of these did come from a super spreader. The superest of super spreaders puts the British guy to shame. I think she's gotten 50 or 60 people sick. Now, when you see South Korea talk about this particular church, this religious sect, this Christian sect, they keep calling it cult. Why are they calling it a cult? Well, apparently the founder believes he's Jesus and Satan. It's like a twofer, it's a combo. Where they're telling people coming to church services, don't wear a mask, don't wear goggles. But there is one detail people are leaving out, and I think you're going to love this. Hold on to your asses. I think you're going to really love this part, chat. Let me make sure I got the right one. It's buried in a New York Times article. It's just a little piece of information that makes this even more bizarre. So let's pull that up. Okay, here's the New York Times article. Talk about Seoul, South Korea, and the secretive, I can't pronounce this, Shinji, I'm going to call it the Shinji Church. The Shinji Church of Jesus worshippers that sit tightly packed together on the floor, forbidden from wearing glasses or face masks. Now, this was the group that's responsible for a fair amount of the people that are getting infected. I think they've upped the number now to, what is it? I don't even know. It's some ludicrous 500 of them are showing symptoms. So it's ground zero. It's the mecca of this shit that's going to spread throughout South Korea. But when you go through and they talk about how weird this church is and the amount of members that got together and how they're familiar with it and why it's so just bizarre and weird, talking about where the outbreak struck and patient 31, that's a designation of the person that got everybody fucking sick back on February 7th. That's when they went to the hospital, so plenty of time to run around. At least 1,000 members attended that day on those two Sunday services that this person attended. Brilliant, great, love it. But there's one piece, let's see if I can find it. Okay, buckle up, chat. You're going to fucking love this. Ready? Jung Yang, director of the Korea Center for Disease Control and Prevention said, authorities were investigating reports that the Shinji Church had operations in Hubei, the Chinese province that includes Wuhan, where the virus emerged. The South Korean news agency Newsys reported on Friday that Shinji opened a church in Wuhan last year, and the references to it have been removed from the website. Church officials could not immediately be reached for comment. So let's piece together a little conspiracy theory, something new, something interesting, something hasn't really been thought about. You've got a crazy religious sect that might be intentionally infecting themselves with the disease, and they were at ground zero. Now, if you know anything about cults, cults are really good at bringing people in. Now, I wonder, is it perhaps a possibility that they set this church up last year and that one of the newer members of that church might have been potentially somebody that worked at the Virology Institute or somebody that worked at the Biolab? Imagine if you're an insane cult that believes the apocalypse is coming and that your founder is Jesus/Satan. And then one of your newer members says, hey, I work in a virology lab where we create death plagues. Maybe I could share it with you. Maybe we could spread it to the world. Real death cult shit, that's right, chat. Just take a minute and really ponder the coincidence of a cult in South Korea spreading this intentionally, and that same cult being located at ground fucking zero, and then erasing all references to its existence in Wuhan. Yeah, we're talking some Resident Evil shit. That's right, Chad. 12 Monkeys, we're going above and beyond. The meme magic on this shit is off the fucking charts. So I'd like you to enjoy that. That's my gift to you, Chad. That's my gift to you. It's a nice thinking thought about the fact that maybe a death cult is responsible for a pandemic. That's the kind of shit you read in a book. But why would they be located at the source of the outbreak of the disease? Who are the members of this particular religious sect? Would they have been motivated to spur on the apocalypse because their founder believes he's the second coming of Christ waiting for the apocalypse? Would they have inside information? Oh my God, are there intentional super spreaders that are spreading this disease out there now that they've gotten the disease from their virology member? Oh, there's so many possibilities here. And it's not like that virology lab assistant, let's say, would be open about being a member of a church. Remember, this is communist China. They'd keep that shit on the down low. In fact, maybe nobody knew. It'll be a mystery for the ages. But I'm gonna enjoy that saga playing itself out in the background. So Japan and Korea really got the short end of the stick. Japan got stuck with a bunch of cruise ship passengers that are all sick as shit, infecting fucking everybody, and now they've got to deal with it and put them in the hospitals, and the hospitals are going to infect other people. And Korea's got an insane cult that's spreading this shit for the fun of it, because it's all giggles. It's all giggles and laughs, apparently. And then what else happens today? Well, we've got cases in Italy. 17 of them just popped up out of nowhere. And that's where the white immunity myth dies. It dies with the 70-year-old Italian man that died of the disease in Italy. Now, there's a CNBC clip out there. I'll probably play it later on if I can find it here. Of somebody saying, talking about how, not just with Italy, but like with Iran, with the British person. Was it, or not the British person, the Canadian that came from overseas. They traveled from Iran back to Canada, calling it a different strain. They're already talking about mutations. Like there are multiple versions of this shit out there now. What are you going to do? There's only so much remdesivir that Gilead Sciences can crank out of its asshole. And there's only so much Kaletra and Illuvia AIDS medicine that you can take. By the way, should we talk for a second about some of the medications you're going to be taking when you get this wonderful disease? Because I don't think they're really cluing people in on the fucking side effects of some of this shit. So you've got your AIDS cocktail, Kaletra and Illuvia. It's got other names, Liprinor or whatever the fuck it is. Then you've got massive amounts of steroids because they need to do that when they intubate you and put you on a little beep machine. So we've got antibiotics, of course. Let's throw a bunch of those in there. And then they're giving you cancer medicine. Can I find the name of this particular cancer medicine? Maybe if I can. It's got some interesting side effects. But the newest one, the newest hottest shit on the scene for treating this disease is antiparasiticals, malaria medicine. So here you are, you go into the hospital with your coofs. Remember, it's just a flu, bro. And the doctor says to you with a straight face, I'm not shitting you. Oh, you've got a really bad cough, and we did an x-ray, and it looks like you got a touch of pneumonia. So I'm going to give you some AIDS medicine, some cancer medicine, some antiparasitical medicine. I'm going to put you on, I'm going to intubate you, I'm going to sedate you, and then I'm going to crank you full of as much steroids as I think we can physically get away with. And then we're going to hope that you survive that. And I should mention the malaria medicine we're giving you. That has a potential to make you go deaf and blind. So you may survive this, but never see or hear anything ever again. It's going to make you itch like a motherfucker. Hopefully you're not going to feel that with the intubation tube making you want to scream as we jam that down your throat. Oh, and enjoy that cancer medicine too. That's got all kinds of wonderful side effects to it. Oh, the only thing they're missing are antifungals. They're that's one of the things that I think worries me the most about this You keep hearing everybody talk about treatment options, and it's great that they're looking for different drugs and treatments, but it's starting to sound like they're just throwing everything at it. Just literally everything: antivirals, antiparasiticals, antibiotics, steroids. We're going to ventilate you. They're starting to run out of options. They're going to have to go to more extreme shit. The stuff that's got the really, really bad side effects that nobody uses as unless it's like the last fucking resort, gun against your head, back against the wall kind of shit. Or you could take experimental medicine like remdesivir from Gilead, but you have to sign a compassionate use waiver, basically saying you absolve them of any legal liabilities if it makes you grow tits and your head falls off. Because it's experimental. Nobody knows what it's going to do long term. I mean, it's a fucking drug that was made to fight Ebola. So, Ebola medicine, what is this treatment regimen? AIDS medicine, cancer medicine, Ebola medicine, malaria medicine, and steroids. And a sprinkling on the top of antibiotics. What kind of nightmare shit did they cook up in this fucking lab? What did they. China, what are you doing? I know everybody says, oh, stop saying it's cooked up in the lab. That's not fair. You have no proof of that, even though multiple people are looking at this thing and saying it's not natural. Whatever. We'll go with possibility number two. Hey, you know what, Jim? You're wrong. This wasn't an intentional bioweapon. Instead, what happened, and this is a completely reasonable thing that might happen if you work at a bio level 4 lab facility. I can't believe this has been printed. I don't even want to spoil it. Let me show you what option number. We've got a few options. One, this magically came into existence. Two, this is a bioweapon that got out of control. Or three, this is your third option. Bat attack, coronavirus. And I love this part. Experts say, when you're talking about getting pissed on by a bat after it bites you, you need an expert to really back you up on that. Experts say men have been pissed on by bats. Let's take a look at this. The coronavirus could have spread from a Wuhan laboratory which housed 600 bats which attacked and pissed on scientists. One researcher at the Wuhan Center for Disease Control, who was urinated on, he also had bat blood on his skin and was forced to quarantine himself. An academic journal says. What was it? This guy? Let's read more. Scientists at South China University of Technology in Guangzhou believe the lab could possibly be the origin of the deadly pandemic. Located 300 yards from the infamous Wuhan food market, where the Chinese government claims the outbreak began. This is written by Botox and Lay. The research journal claimed the WCDC hosted animals in laboratories for research purposes, including 607 bats captured in a nearby province. The paper, titled "The Possible Origin of nCoV," reports that one researcher, named Tian, was once attacked by bats and that the blood of the bat was on his skin. According to the journal, Tian isolated himself, I love this movie, for 28 days after the bats peed on him. How'd you like that on your fucking job resume? He isolated himself for 28 days after the bats pissed on him. So I guess you could say 28 days later, the virus and the contagion began. The paper states the Chinese horseshoe bats were natural reservoirs of the severe acute respiratory syndrome coronavirus, which caused the SARS outbreak in 2003. Here's a beautiful picture of the fucking wet market. I think they just ripped the head off a fucking bull and he's bagging it up for me. I'd like a whole head. Just throw it on in there for me. So chat, you tell me. Did some dude named Tien end the world because a bat pissed in his mouth? That's what I'm trying to figure out. I mean, I could understand now why China's being so fucking secretive about it. It's kind of embarrassing. How do you tell the world that you're responsible for the apocalypse because one of your guys got pissed on and then isolated himself for 28 days? Oh, there's so many fun theories about this. So what was it? Is it a bioweapon that escaped? Is it a vaccine that's gone wrong? Was a man pissed on by a bat? Is it a South Korean cult trying to end the world? I don't know what it is, but it sure is happening. Given the estimates right now, at least in the United States, and this isn't the confirmed cases, these are the isolated cases, people that have been brought back over and told to self-isolate. What do you have? You have probably 10,000 people. 6,700 in California, 700 in Washington, hundreds in Oregon, hundreds in New York. It wouldn't surprise me if right now there are 10,000 or more people in self-isolation, a 14-day quarantine that's ineffective because the disease has an incubation period of pretty much fucking double that. I don't know where this is going, but I find it entertaining and a little terrifying, to be honest. Because that white immunity doesn't exist, apparently, and we're all going to die. Oh, Jesus Christ. Chat. How do you get pissed on by a bat? How do you even let that happen? What are you doing that allows that to happen? And why are these people not taking it seriously? Why would Iran let its citizens go out and vote when they know that there are so many infected in multiple cities? Why would protesters go on the street of Seoul in South Korea because they're pissed off about something, knowing that the infection is spreading? Why are the only countries out there really doing anything are the ones that most people... So you've got Russia shutting down travel and locking its border. You've got Mongolia shutting down travel and locking its border. Israel said nobody from China, and then it put limitations on people coming from Hong Kong, Taiwan, and Macau. You've got Saudi Arabia putting limitations on Iran. You've got Kuwait doing the same. Iraq and Afghanistan doing the same. North Korea has basically locked itself down. I mean, when you hear this many nations talking about border crossings being closed, travel in and out being closed, selectively letting people in or putting them in quarantine if they do come in, when do you think people are going to realize if things have tilted a little bit and that it is getting worse and that it might not be an apocalyptic event? I'm not saying 100% of the human race is going to get wiped out, but the longer it goes on and the sicker people get and the more disrupted the economy gets, the worse it is for everyone. Because we live under this stupid idea of globalization where you can't make a fucking thing in one place and get the supplies for it in one place. You've got to get a piece in China and then ship it to Mexico so they can build the component that gets shipped to Denmark, and Denmark can add something to it and ship it back to America. Rather than just having one fucking place do the whole goddamn process. But no, let's have our drugs made here, let's have our cars made there, let's have our laptops over there, let's have all this shit spread out everywhere. So when each of these countries goes dark, we get to deal with it. And then you talk about quarantines. Not just restrictions on travel, not the Russias and the Israels and the Kuwaits and all of them. But you talk about lockdowns in cities. Well, China's still locking down a ton of stuff, even though they want to force people back to work. Now there are 10 cities in Italy with a total population, I think they said, of what, 50,000 people that are locking down all their public gatherings, businesses, bakeries, schools, and all of that. You've got Iran considering locking down Qum, or whatever it is. You've got a city just outside of Hanoi in Vietnam with a population of, I think, 10,000 that's completely locked down. So it's starting to pick up everywhere. And the things that you would think would make people go, well, shit, that seems like it's probably not great, they're just oblivious to. It's really remarkable to me, the amount of people that have completely tuned it out, waiting for it to basically get dropped on their doorstep, waiting for it just to turn apocalyptic before they finally have an issue with it. Case in point. Let's talk about the CDC and their numbers. Let's talk about the news media and how ludicrous and retarded they are. Somebody explain this to me. Let's take a look at this tweet from CBS from Los Angeles. And tell me if you notice a problem with this particular tweet. Make sure it's all, there we go. Remember, CDC said there are 13 currently confirmed cases of coronavirus in the United States. Not self-isolation, not suspected, confirmed. But here's what CBS is reporting. The city of Costa Mesa is seeking to block the transfer of up to 70 confirmed coronavirus patients from near Sacramento to the former Fairview Development Center. So wait, do we have 13 confirmed cases of coronavirus in the US, or do we have 70 confirmed cases of coronavirus in the US? And why are we transferring them from one fucking city to the next? This isn't like sending them to, what is it, Nebraska, where they've got an Ebola lab built with special fucking air ventilation that will seal off the rooms and the hallways and prevent spreadage. So, where are these 70 people coming from? And why is the news media reporting that? I mean, somebody fucked up one place or the other. Either the government fucked up in its counting ability, or the news media is pants on head retarded. But then they'll go on to tell you you're being a little too worked up about this when they're misprinting shit like this. I don't know what the fuck is going on. I'm telling you, I feel like I'm living in clown world with really basic bitch shit, and I don't understand it. Oh, here's the details on the 10 towns in Italy that have been locked down. To give you an idea of what you can look forward to when it comes to America, you're probably going to see this happen. Residents are asked to stay at home for 1 week. All public events are suspended. No work or commercial activities. No recreational activities. All schools are closed. All public transport is stopped. So basically, sit in your fucking house and do nothing for a week. And I don't know how recreational. Can I play my video games in my room? Is that permissible, Italy? I don't know if that's allowed anymore. There was one though that really, I think. Oh God, I hope I can find this. It's gonna bother me if I can't. Oh yeah, I've got a couple. We got a couple things, but I want to find this first if I can. Sorry, chat. This is a laid back, unorganized stream, so I'm just being a lazy little boy about it. There's so much shit happening, I can't even find my own stuff anymore. Uh, I can probably search it if I really have to. That's them liquidating people. Here we go. Let's take a look at this. Remember, news came out from the Military Times talking about the U.S. military preparing for a pandemic. You had the CDC come out today, right, and tell everybody that this is a serious, grave threat to the public health, and that it's not just probable that human-to-human transmission is going to begin in the United States, but most likely that it's going to, and that they're going to start working on pandemic plans for how cities should handle this. All right, so the CDC is now publicly coming out, and basically that's a very diplomatic, political way of telling you shit's about to hit the fan, get ready. And the military's already been doing shit in the background. But here's something interesting that popped up before the CDC announcement, and I think it's quite telling. Just a requisition order, just out of nowhere, a little small story. I know it's a little skewed, I'll read it for you nonetheless. FBI has ordered $40,000 in hand sanitizer and face masks. The FBI placed the order in case the coronavirus becomes a pandemic in the U.S., according to the acquisition document. The FBI's pandemic preparedness supply order included face masks manufactured from 3M and disinfectants, including hand sanitizer from PDI Healthcare. In its purchase order, the FBI said it needed to have those items on hand if the virus spreads widely through the U.S. The masks and disinfectants are to be stored throughout the U.S. for distribution in the event of a declared pandemic. This is the best part. Really listen to this one. According to the document, which was signed Friday, they gave the companies 1 week to fulfill the order. So if there's nothing to worry about, if this is all just smoke and mirrors, why would the FBI say, we need you to supply us with $40,000 worth of masks and hand sanitizer, and you got a fucking week to do it? We need that shit now. So the military's getting ready. We've got 15 bases across the country that are set up for quarantine. We have the CDC preparing quarantine plans, or at least suggestions for what cities can do if something bad happens. And then in the background, you have the FBI placing requisition orders and giving companies a timeline of 1 fucking week to get this shit done. Just a cold, bro. I love how their justification is. It's just, hey, maybe something bad might happen. Get it done in a week. It's for the, we don't want you to worry. Okay, we're not saying pandemic is coming. We're just saying we need this by Friday. We need this immediately. You need to do this now. Oh, What in the fuck? I tell you, it's oh, here's another one. Why not? Let me give you some more bad news when it comes to reinfection. This is one that was spreading around earlier. Coronavirus patient discharged following recovery in the Sichuan province has been readmitted after testing positive again during the quarantine period at home, said local health authority on Friday, adding that similar cases have been reported in other regions. So China itself is saying people are being reinfected. Now, it's not just maybe it's happening. That's China saying that that's happening. Remarkable. Absolutely just fucking remarkable. But of course, if you listen to the news media or if you listen to even health experts from WHO from the past week, everything that you're seeing happen now and being confirmed by different countries or China itself, they've said, no, that's not true. That can't possibly happen. And yet, here we are. Here we are as it keeps going on. What did Nancy Messonnier, CDC official, say? We are working with state, local, and territorial health departments to ready our public workforce to respond to local cases and the possibility this outbreak could become a pandemic. It sure seems like a lot of people are getting ready for the possibility that this becomes a fucking pandemic. I don't blame them. I'm sure they're watching what's happening in South Korea right now and thinking, fuck. All it takes is one asshole to become a biobomb, walking himself through a fucking metropolitan area and getting people infected. But there was one more. The most infuriating shit you're ever going to see. Let me pull this up for you. This is somebody that was on the Diamond Princess. I want you to listen to what this absolute piece of filth said when it comes to... Well, I don't even want to spoil it. Make sure it's centered. Okay, just listen to this shit, chat. It makes my blood boil.
By way of Skype, and Jerry, good afternoon to you. One of those stranded in Japan. Thank you for being here. How's your husband? I understand he is not well. Does he have this virus, Jerry?
We're hoping to hear in the next hour, as for myself too. So we do not know yet. We were tested in Japan and never got the results back, and we made up the story that we were clear. And then on the flight overnight, he came down with a fever.
This bitch and her husband, this absolute piece of filth, gets tested and lies to the authorities and that we made up the story that we're clear, that the results we got say we don't have anything, even though we didn't get the results. And then we got on a plane with a bunch of other people, and what do you know, we're sick. So these pieces of shit lied about their fucking status of being infected, lied about their test results, got onto a fucking plane, and infected a bunch of other goddamn people. There has to be a punishment for that. You can't let somebody do that and get away with it, or a bunch of people are going to do that. Fucking boomers. The sense of self-entitlement of this bitch and her husband, of thinking they can make up a story, pull that kind of shit off, and that everybody's just going to deal with it and it's going to be okay. Mind-boggling. Just made it up. Made it up. We made it up fictitious. We told them Japan said we're healthy. Let us on the airplane. Oh, fucking hell. And you wonder why you see videos of people in Ukraine throwing bricks through fucking bus windows and lighting shit on fire. It's probably because of people like Nancy there. Little Miss Karen. Let me see your manager. Nobody wants to get infected with this shit. And the more countries it spreads to, the more freaked out people get. And the bigger the economic impact of it is. But really, just for a second, just look at all the things lined up and just ask yourself, do you think it's turning out well? Half of China, 1/10 of the world, is under lockdown. 4 other countries have cities under lockdown. $1.1 trillion in damage. Quarantines are being put in effect that are 10 days short of the total incubation period. thousands of people are going to be let out of quarantine and potentially still be sick. And we've already seen that happen once, confirmed in the U.S. The disease can reinfect you. The disease attacks you in different ways when you get it a different time. There aren't enough hospitals. This happened in South Korea with just 150 cases in the city of Dagao or whatever it's called. They said they were already short on suitable beds. They have 17 hospitals in a city of 2.5 million people, and they could not handle 150 cases. What do you think they're going to do when it's 1,000 or 5,000? It's going to be fucking bedlam. Now, I don't know if they're going to take the approach China did and lock everything down and have people with guns walking on the street. But you're going to get people that are going to lie about shit like that lady did. You're going to get people that are going to underreport their symptoms. You're going to get people that are going to try to go to different areas. And when this happens in the U.S., it's going to be a shit show in the metropolitan areas. I pity you if you live on the East or the West Coast and this thing kicks off. If you're in California in one of those big cities, if you're in New York in one of those big cities, you are fucked. There's no way the hospital's going to be able to accommodate you. If you go to the hospital, you're going to get sicker. If you didn't have the fucking thing and you show up to get checked, chances are you're going to have it by the time you leave. And it's just going to spread and spread and spread. And spread it will. It's not just aerosolized, airborne. It's not just touching shit. It doesn't just live on surfaces for 9 days. Apparently, poop fumes do it too. So I guess if you cut ass, if you rip a really loud fart, you're going to infect everybody around you. And those poop fumes, that airborne fecal matter, it's just going to waft into people and infect them. That's one of the reasons they believe that the Death Princess, the ship moored off of Japan, got everybody so fucking sick is the poop fumes. Who made this? What mad scientist makes this? You couldn't make this in Plague Inc. You'd have to cheat to put these kind of fucking, this combination together of this weird fucking thing. You know, one of the interesting things, you might want to do it later if you have a chance, because they said that malaria medicine seems to have a really good effect on this disease. Go compare the CDC malaria map, outbreak map, to the area of infected with coronavirus and overlay it. And what you'll see is that areas that are heavy in malaria and therefore heavy with people that are being treated with anti-malaria drugs really have no cases of coronavirus. I don't think it has anything to do with temperature. I think it's these motherfuckers have been taking this medicine, this anti-parasitical, and it's given them a buffer. Because you've got a large area of India, a lot of Africa, and a good portion of South America, and none of those are affected. It's very weird. It's very weird how those maps overlay with one another. Yes, chat, death farts. Death by poo. Death by poo in the loo disease. Yes. I don't. Jesus. This thing is such a nightmare. It's just a nightmare disease. But remember, it's an empty bun. It's a nothing burger. That's what you're going to be told. People are going to keep telling you it's an empty burger as store shelves become limited on their the option of what they have stocked. They're going to tell you it's an empty bun, as all those masks that you might want, or the hand sanitizer, or the Dettol, or the plastic gloves, as those suddenly disappear. They're going to tell you it's a nothing burger when the first U.S. city gets locked down. They're going to tell you it's a nothing burger when the cases start to spread or South Korea gets out of control. They're going to tell you it's a nothing burger when you don't get your game consoles because nobody can manufacture them because half the countries that would are dealing with this fucking death plague. Now, China is in the midst of pushing people back to work, saying that you have to go back to work, and if you get coronavirus, that's not anybody's fault but your own now. So they're going to send people back into the fucking factories. Some asshole's going to coof, and it's going to start all over again. Except maybe this time they get reinfected. Instead of having lung problems, they have a fucking heart attack. So potentially, you maybe might encounter ordering a product from China and somebody's decapitated head's in the box because they fell on the fucking conveyor belt line at the factory from the heart attack they had from being reinfected from coronavirus, and they push plate or some fucking machine chopped it off. I don't know. don't know. It'll show up fresh. Everybody arguing about the time this thing lives on surfaces. What is it? Upwards of 9 days, depending on the surface type. Even longer if it's like the smoothest shit that's ever existed. Think about all the shit that you order online. Can you verify where it comes from? Do you know there's a town in China called America? Just so when they manufacture shit, they can say it's made in America? Do you ever wonder if maybe one of those made in America products you bought off Amazon was actually made in America, China, and not America, America? Good luck ordering shit off Amazon. It's Russian roulette at this point. I mean, you have to appreciate God's sense of humor, I think, a little bit. And the idea that the apocalypse might happen because some dude had a bat piss on him. I mean, there is humor in that. There's also humor in the fact that some crazy death cult might have somehow unleashed this on the world. There's humor in the fact that this is a bioweapon some idiot dropped and didn't tell anybody about. There's also humor in the fact that somebody ate a bat's asshole and now the world's going to burn. Really, any of these options are quite comical. It's a comedy of errors. It's the sort of thing you want to go out on, I guess. Leave them with a laugh. Put a smile on their face before you slam the door shut. I don't even want to go look at. Every time I look at BNO's Twitter, it's some more dire fucking news. Let's go see what horror story they have updating right now. Okay, we're finally done for the day of horrible shit happening. Yeah, the total in South Korea right now, 346 cases. And I know they had more of those coming from, I know they break it down, where they talked about how many came. Okay, here we go. 92 of the cases linked to the hospital, 38 to the church, and I love this, 12 of them are unknown. They don't know. The only country that's really been great about monitoring the clusters and the line or succession of infection has been Singapore. In fact, Singapore, like half their people have recovered already, and they only have 5 critical, and nobody's died yet. But I think that's because they dealt with SARS before, and they have a really good healthcare system, and they don't want to get destroyed. They're a city on an island. They can't really fuck this one up. They don't have anywhere to run. But just 12 unknowns. 12 unknown. Where did they come from? We don't know. Italy getting 18 fucking infections in a day. Brilliant. And a death. And Iran having deaths happen too. Also, somebody brought up a great point. I'm going to double check this because I didn't even bother to check if this was true or not. But let's do it right now. Okay, brilliant. Would you like to know what the temperature in Singapore is right now? Remember, all the brilliant fucking experts out there said, hey, wait till the warm weather comes, because once that warm weather comes, we're not going to have any infections. It's a nice, cool, ice cold 89 degrees fucking Fahrenheit in Singapore right now. Singapore, the place that has 80 fucking cases of this. So 80 plus cases of this in 90 degree weather. I don't think this is going to disappear because it gets a little bit warmer in April. I think President Trump might be a little wrong on that. If he's expecting a slight warming up of the weather to have any impact when a fucking nation that basically lives in an oven is having problems. And let's not forget Australia. I'm sure it's not icy cold down there either, with the hellscape tornadoes of fire that are nonstop and the burning kangaroos around every fucking corner. We're all going to have to take AIDS medicine to survive this. It's clown world. We live in clown world. I don't know who China pissed off, but Xi Jinping, the glorious leader of China, Winnie the Pooh, pissed off some god out there, and I don't know which one it is, but it's one of them. Because they had swine fever kill off all their pigs. And then they had the bird flu wipe out their poultry industry. And then they got Corona Chan that crippled their citizenry and their economy. And now all the locusts, the locust horde from Africa, for whatever reason, decided it wanted to go to China, and now it's in China. So, is he like a modern day pharaoh? Are we on plague 4 of this shit? Swine fever, bird flu, coronavirus, a plague of locusts. What did Winnie the Pooh do? Whose honey did he steal that we find ourselves in this position? Because China pissed somebody off. They pissed somebody off with a little bit of zazz, a little bit of moxie, some pep in their step. It's like God decided one day, hey, all these assholes on Earth don't think I exist anymore. I'm going to pick the most atheist nation there is, and I'm just going to fuck their shit into the dirt until people will acknowledge me. Maybe, are we going to read next week, is a burning bush going to appear in Beijing and start shit-talking Chinese people? Because that's that's where we're going. And then there was a story that they were releasing 100,000 ducks to battle the locusts. I bet you all those ducks are going to die of bird flu. I bet you every one of those ducks, knowing China's luck at the moment, every one of those fucking ducks is going to die of bird flu before a locust even shows up. Oh, chat, yeah, no, I see some people saying, oh, China said it was going to rewrite the Bible. Oh, it goes deeper than that. China was also going to, what is it? There's a term for it. Xi Jinping sayings or philosophies. They wanted to replace the Ten Commandments with Winnie the Pooh's personal writings, and they were going to have him make the Ten Commandments. And then they were going to rewrite the Bible to make it more communist, as well as rewrite the Quran. And then the guy they put in charge of Hong Kong is a guy famous for tearing crosses off of churches. And then also, I guess, when he declared himself God at some point, because there is a story that says he did that. So he picked a fight with the wrong one. Now, I don't know if that's Yahweh or Allah, but somebody's pissed at him. You got all the Uyghurs in camps. Maybe it's Allah. All I know is China is fucked. But we're all going to suffer for it. But again, I find it funny that this all started because potentially, it maybe all started because a bat pissed on some dude. Got a little bat urine on his face, and now the world's going to burn. But I'm all in on this, at least until it peters out. Now, I didn't know where it was going to go. I mean, remember, it's an empty bun. It's a nothing burger. We've been told that. So I thought, oh, it'll be over in a week, right? That's what I'm being told. And here we are. I started following this. I think the first stream I did it's almost been a month. The first stream I did was about this time last month. Because it's been 30 days of this. That it doesn't stop. It just keeps growing. I'd say maybe it doesn't hurt to be a little prepared. I'm not saying go crazy, but maybe get some things in order just ahead of time in case shit hits the fan. Just so you're not completely caught off guard. Now, you don't need to dig a 40-foot deep bunker, but maybe spend $5 and get a 3M mask just so you got it on hand. Maybe a bag of rice or something. just in case. Just have it sitting around the house. Some lima beans, shit like that. We'll see, though. We'll see where it goes. Maybe it burns out. I keep saying that at the end of every stream. I've said that. Always hedge your bets. Maybe it burns out. But it doesn't seem like it is. It doesn't seem like it's going to stop anytime soon. So I don't know what the fuck's going on. But it's not pleasant.